Hello, I'm Nola and welcome to my channel. Today I want to welcome you, but also importantly, I want to welcome and thank my new subscribers. There have been so many of you. I am so moved. When I started this channel, I didn't think that anyone would watch. And it moves me because my intent was that if I just helped one soul along, that would be enough for me. It has taken me a while to embrace my calling because of a lot of things, my ego being one of them and being afraid to be criticized. But nevertheless, I'm here. I am. So today I have some very important questions for you, my fellow souls and citizens. My soul has been restless. My heart was moved. And my intuition has been pulling me down a path of deep questioning ever since I heard the speech by the French Senator Claude Malhuret. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I was wondering if you heard him, and even if you didn't hear him, I have been wondering if these same questions or thoughts have been weighing on your mind. These are some of the questions that I'm having and the thoughts that I'm having, because right now I feel a dangerous silence in the world, a silence that reminds me of another time in history, a time when people thought diplomacy and delay would stop a rising force of aggression, a time when leaders justified inaction, believing that waiting would solve the problem. But history has shown us what happens when a world waits too long. So you may say, who the hell are you? Well, I'm just Nola, really a nobody, just a fellow citizen and a soul like you who is mindful and thoughtful, and I pay attention. And also I have an intuition, a very good one at that. So this is why I'm here. I don't have a lot of education. I'm just a little man, a little woman, right? But I have questions. I have some wisdom. So we are watching the bullying of the Ukraine, the fracturing of Europe, and the political rhetoric of appeasement. And yet the real questions are not being asked. So today I am going to ask them. Little old me. Okay, so these are some of the hard questions that the world must face. First question is, excuse me, and I have to refer to my notes. How long before Europe realizes that hesitation is just giving Russia more time to push its boundaries? How long before the world leaders stop pretending that the Ukraine's fight is separate from Europe's fight or the fight of the world? Why is Ukraine being left to stand alone? How did we go from we will stand with Ukraine to we will give them just enough to survive, barely survive, but not enough to win? Do world leaders actually want the Ukraine to win is my question, and probably yours too. Okay? Or are they afraid of what that would mean for a global power structure? Or for global power structures. Now here's a big question. Question number 3. If Russia succeeds, and I'm not saying that she will, who is next? Moldova, Poland, Germany, the Baltics? And why are so many European nations acting as though Russia's ambitions will stop at Ukraine? Why do they think that? I don't even know what they're thinking, but that's a question that I have. That's probably a question that you have, because if you've, still, then you have these questions too. Have they forgotten how expansionist regimes operate? Have they forgotten how Hitler's rise was dismissed until it was too late? Have they forgotten? Have we forgotten? And then there are the security gaps that no one wants to talk about. What does Vladimir Putin have over world leaders? What does he have? It's a question that's come to my mind. I'm sure it's come to yours too. Why is there so much hesitation and weakness when it comes to standing up to him? What does he know? What does he control, or who does he control? And what is keeping major nations from taking a firm stand against him? Number 5, if Europe will not defend itself, then who will? If, God forbid, if the US withdraws from NATO or abandons the Ukraine entirely, what will Europe do? Are European nations prepared for what comes next? Or are they waiting for a lifeline that may never arrive? What is the plan if America's support disappears? What's the plan? Does Europe even have a united defense strategy? Every European country, I think, has a different perception of what the threats may be against them. So this makes having a collective defense system incredibly difficult. I get this. The UK, France, and Germany have taken the lead in some military developments, but there is no cohesive strategy, at least not one that I've heard of. And I watch Al Jazeera News, I watch Euronews, I watch some of the local news stations where I currently reside. I read some of the newspapers, and I just haven't seen or heard anything, and I don't know if you have, and that's why I'm asking these questions. A divided Europe is a weak Europe. A fractured NATO is a useless NATO. And I realize that there are probably some European countries that don't have the resources or the money to contribute majorly, but is the rest of the world going to step up? So I wanted to also ask the question about the role of the UK and the future of European security. Can a UK-EU security partnership bridge the gap? Despite Brexit, the UK remains a critical security partner of Europe. Absolutely critical for Europe to remain in a security partnership with the UK. Even though Brexit didn't work out, the UK is still critical. There have been talks in Brussels about a formalized partnership to strengthen Europe's defense. And without a strong and lasting security agreement, Ukraine will always be vulnerable, and so will Europe, and so will the rest of the world. And then number 8 is really for my fellow Americans and my friends and family. Has America forgotten how much it once relied on our allies? After 9/11 or September the 11th, NATO invoked Article 5 for the very first time in history. I don't know whether a lot of my fellow Americans know this, because in America we don't really, many of us, I cannot speak for all Americans, many of us don't know how the world actually functions and what a major role America has taken up until now, and how we have depended on and leaned on our allies across the world. Australia, New Zealand, you name it, everyone stepped up, giving billions of dollars after 9/11, and the NATO invoked Article 5 for the first time in history, because they believed that an attack on one is an attack on all. America needed the world then, and the world answered, including the Ukraine. There were boots on the ground from just about every nation that is part of NATO when America called. And there was a lot of money given. They were not loans. The money was given, and America never had to pay it back. So while I realize, you and we realize that the Ukraine is not part of NATO yet, I still must ask you, so why now, when Ukraine is under attack, does the US hesitate to provide the same collective defense? Why is no one standing up to the destruction of America from within is my number 9 question. For my fellow Americans, why have Republicans fully surrendered to authoritarianism? Hard words. Have they all been bought? I'm sure we've all had these thoughts. Why are the Democrats failing to fight back, except for a handful, such as Senator Bernie Sanders, AOC, Jasmine Crockett? Oh my gosh, those 2 women are so brave, AOC and Jasmine Crockett. And just to name a few, there's just a handful. Are they afraid, or are they compromised too? I'm talking about the Democrats. Have they been paid off too? It's so quiet. The silence is deafening. Why is there so much silence when democracy itself is at stake? The silence is deafening, friends. In the bigger picture, a global realignment. Question number 10, and this is the last question. I know I've kept you long enough already. Thank you for hanging with me. Have we already passed the turning point? Are we already in the early stages of a global realignment, where power is shifting faster than people realize? So much is happening, it makes my head spin. What will it take for the world's leaders to wake up to the urgency of this moment? I just feel like people are not acting as though it's urgent enough. This just isn't about the next 4 years. It's about a long-term restructuring of global power. I do not ask these questions to spread fear. I ask them because they are the very questions that no one wants to answer. And history has shown us what happens when the hard questions are ignored. If you and I don't demand answers now, we may find that by the time the answers come, it is already too late. So I ask you, I ask myself, how much longer are we going to wait? And when will the world finally say enough? So, if you have found these questions important, if you are asking them too, then let's talk about it, please. Drop a comment below. Share this video if you found it helpful. And let's keep asking the questions that no one else will. Thank you for being with me today. Please take care of yourself. Remember, we will need to lean on each other on one side and prop each other up on the other. These are not easy days in the world. And kindness is really very, very important. People are going through things that you and I know nothing about. So please remember to be kind. I will be back on Thursday with the follow-up video, something that I should have posted today. I'm recording on the 10th, and this will be live on the 11th. And I had another video that I will post on Thursday instead of Tuesday, the day that I should have posted it. So look out for that on Thursday. I hope I've made sense. Thank you for being here, and until the next time, do take care now, and bye for now.